Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's a nice day for Florida. It's probably a really good day for most other parts of the country. But as you can see, a little bit overcasty, a little bit cloudy. You know I'm into this kind of weather. I like the whole dreary, kind of Addams Family mood type situation. But let's get beyond that. Today we're out here to discuss minimalistic photography, or minimalism photography, better known as negative space. Yes, you may have heard of this very fancy terminology they like to use in the photo world called negative space. Basically, it makes your picture way more dramatic, like a single child standing in the middle of a giant cornfield, or if there was like one boat out in the middle of that lake. Oh man, that would really help my day out. But I thought I'd take you around. I've gone to a couple of different areas, taken some good examples, some bad examples, and I'm going to give you my take on minimalist photography or negative space. But sit back, relax, we'll discuss. Maybe you've never heard of this before. Negative space coming your way. So, negative space, what is that? Well, as you can see in the example here, it's when you have way more of one feature than another, I guess is one way to describe it. But you have a tremendous amount of space, like you see in this picture. Either way above, or to one side, or you have a lot of foreground, but you have a tremendous amount of space that isn't being used. And it helps make the subject matter very dramatic if you can capture the correct setting. See, negative space, it's an interesting feature to try to utilize. If you don't utilize it, well then you're kind of screwed, because you're going to have big open nothingness surrounding your subject, and if everything isn't perfect, it's just going to look, out of balance. Negative space is a time when you break most of the photography rules. Like, you either have your subject in one of the two key areas or centered. We're going to break all those rules. Correct amount of foreground. You want a tremendous amount of negative space over, around, or to the left or right of your subject. So you kind of wonder what that is going to do for you. Well, what it does is it draws attention to the one and only thing in the frame. It makes it stand out and pop, like they like to say in photography, and it makes it unavoidable for the eye. So in photography, what we love to do when we take a perfect picture is draw the viewer's eye directly to it. And so when you use negative space, if it's done well, obviously there's no way of missing it. Your eye is drawn directly to it. And it is quite hard for the brain to process, I guess, is the easiest way to put it. The brain likes to fill in all the spots around something to get more of a full picture. But when you force negative space onto your brain, it has to really capture more detail in the only subject that's in the frame. So it is very interesting. Let's figure if we go around, take a few shots. I'll show you some good examples. I'll show you some bad examples. But, maybe you're getting what I'm talking about. Negative space, like everything you see to the left of me is really, I'm all the way over here in this one corner. And I wish there was only the tree in this frame, because that would really be the great example. But you get the picture, kind of, right? Get the picture. All right. Getting back to what we were discussing, negative space. As you can see behind me, I have a couple of power towers. I have a ton of sky behind me and above. if I was to shoot this shot, which I'm going to try to do, I would focus on one of these towers and a tremendous amount of sky. Maybe even take the tower from like a quarter way up and just mostly all sky above it. Then the next thing I'm going to do is probably pick a subject like this tree and just alienate it and give it a ton of foreground, shoot it with a ton of background, shoot it with a ton of sky, just go all over, just to make it more dramatic, to make it more standalone. It gives it a lot more presence in your picture. So if you're ever on, say, a beach is an excellent location. You'll see those lifeguard stations, and then you have miles of ocean behind you. That's an excellent shot. Or you have one person hanging out, and they're wearing a really bright yellow t-shirt. Now, there is a school of photography that says you really don't have to have a isolated subject, that you can use Photoshop and Lightroom and remove everything else around it to make it more dramatic, which is just fine. For me, I like to go with a more raw, a more basic photography. I like my subjects to actually be caught alone, to actually be a standalone object. It just, for me, it makes it, it's more important that, that I like it to be more natural. I mean, you can do anything you want in Lightroom and Photoshop, there's no doubt about it. And it does, if you're doing like advertising work or something, it really makes your work hit that next level. But for just my own collection, my own portfolio, I like all my subjects to be raw and real. If I'm doing a minimalist shot, in other words, a negative space shot, then I want to find an isolated subject and take that picture of the subject just by itself. Comes out good, comes out good. Would look better if I remove a bunch of stuff? I bet it would, but unfortunately, it's not going to be an option in what we're doing. So, for me, negative space, it'll be real wide open negative space. Now, not saying anything's wrong with using areas that have a lot of noise in the background, but that's a lot of post-production work. And, if you like that, bravo. Me, I don't like that. But let's see if we can get a few more shots. I'll share those with you, and then we'll wrap this up. I mean, negative space is just negative. All right, wow. I think I got some really good ones. What do you think about this one? Not bad, huh? I impress myself sometimes. I throw in a couple of wildlife shots like this guy. Couldn't believe it. He's just sitting up there on the pole hanging out. Was able to get a couple of good shots of him. Wasn't my... See? Sometimes you get stuff you didn't even come for. Had no idea I'd be doing a little bit of wildlife photography on top of that negative space. But I hope this has been interesting for you, as it's been interesting for me. I love to see some of your photos. If you ever want to send them to me or post them down below, feel free to go right ahead. Email is listed in the contact information below. Negative space, want to make something look dramatic? A model, a building, get it into a spot or Photoshop it to be all by itself and have tremendous amount of nothing around it in every direction. That's what you call negative space. But y'all know how we do it on this channel. Comment, like, subscribe. Love ya. Big hug. Come on in for a big hug. Don't be afraid. It's okay. See y'all in the next one. Here, come here. Give me a hug. Give me a hug.